I hope you're having a happy day. It should be Saturday for you out there in Allhurst and Linda. We're just trying to dial it in for you. Don't want you to get confused. Miss that refill on the EBT card out there. So we're out here on Malheuth in East Linda in Yuba County, a part of the future state of Jefferson. And when I say we, it's Wikiman Santos Vigil and myself, Lou Benninger. And we are sitting in this ice-cold, nice feeling. We got a cup of coffee, and we got eating a few of these salted almonds. And we're getting paid first. You know, we got advance pay tonight. So they fronted us our pay, so we're talking for food. Out here at KMYC, the Patriot, 1410 AM. And the phone number out here is 530-742-5555. But when you call us, when you hear this and you call this number, we won't be here because we couldn't be here on Saturday, and we're here just a few hours earlier, knocking this out so you can listen to it. If you want to call and leave a message, you can, but I don't know, I don't normally get the messages personally, but if you want to text me, if you want something from me, I'll give you the number, 530-713-1838. 530-713-1838. Text me. And, like last couple of weeks, some people were interested in what I was going to do for the election. I don't put out a voter plank like some groups do, special interest groups do, trying to twist your arm to do something. But sometimes, friends of mine will contact me and say, hey, I haven't had time to look at the candidates or these certain candidates or certain propositions, and can you tell me what you did? So that's what I've done, and some of you have sent in your email addresses. Just telling me you want it doesn't help me. I need your email address or your snail mail address, your physical address, so I can mail a copy to you. I will get that right out because I know some of you are wanting to fill out those absentee ballots. So 713-1838, you can text that. Again, calling in, I don't want to frustrate you. You're going to get an answering machine today. You can listen on the live stream. We'll hope that that will be up tomorrow. You could go to KMYC Radio .com, KMYCradio.com, and look on the listen live spot and click on it, and hopefully that'll work. But there's other ways everybody's telling me, although I haven't used them myself. People over in other states are tuning in a variety of ways. One way is tune in. Just spell out the word tune in, or the two words all one word, tunein, one word, .com. And then look for KMYC, and then Streama, STREEMA.com, Streema.com, or just go on your app, in your smartphone on your apps, and look for Simple Radio, the word Simple Radio, and click on that and find your way to KMYC Radio or 1410 AM. And that should give you a nice clear signal, because as you get out into these 4 or 5 counties that we reach out into, some areas, for whatever reason, are sketchy reception-wise. And so these are some ways you can listen to us live. If you want to listen to us later, you can go to One Eye Blind Media on YouTube channel. Again, YouTube, go to YouTube, and then One Eye Blind Media, 4 separate words, and then just look for Live with Lou and click on whatever particular show that you're interested in. This will be the October 20 show. So this weekend is a real significant weekend because it's the last weekend you can register to vote. And so you might think, oh my goodness, the government offices are closed. But you can get around that. You can vote online. And I checked it out here a minute ago, just to make sure I'm going to tell you the facts. So as long as you vote, I think by Sunday, midnight, you should be good. And you just go to this website. It's a state of California website. It's called Register to Vote. You just spell out the 3 words, but mush them together, no spaces. Register to Vote. Dot or period ca.gov. Register to Vote, all one word, .ca.gov. You just go there, and just scroll down, and it just prompts you to give out all your information that you need to get on board. And within 24 hours, you should see your name. You could go back and verify that your name actually is posted on the state website as a registration to vote, and then that'll get passed on to whatever county that you're located in. Let me just encourage you. I just want to make sure you get this. In order to change something in your life, you need to somehow change your routine. And so I spent a lot of time in Yuba County Jail talking to inmates who have been having a tough time doing right on the outside, and they keep coming to jail for various reasons. And I talked to them about changing their life, and I studied some about this. And so you need to somehow take rulership or ownership over your brain and do something, shuffle your life. It's kind of like shuffling a deck of cards, and make some determinations to change things up. Like if you're trying to get off drugs, or get along with your kids better, or get along with your wife better. Something radically has to change. Just hoping for change isn't going to get it. That's true in business. That's true in any part of your life. Okay. So if you want the nation to change, you need to vote. You think, oh, well, you know something? The vote for Trump, whether you voted for him or against him, was awful close, was it not? And the Electoral College wasn't that close, but the popular vote was quite close. And I think when Kennedy, John F. Kennedy beat President Nixon, the vote was like, I think came down to one vote per county. There's over 3,000 some counties in the United States, but it was very, very, very close, or one vote for precinct or something like that. It was very tight. So, and there's some races that are happening this time, or propositions or measures that could go down very tight. And one of them is Proposition 6. Proposition 6 was put on the ballot by, I think, about 1 million signatures of your peers out there in California. And they put it on the ballot because the legislature last year, 2/3 of the legislators passed a new tax increasing DMV fees from the lowest to, in other words, you have DMV fees, Department of Motor Vehicles, but they added on top of that minimum of $25 up to the more expensive cars, $175. Now, in some states, they don't ever pay $175, right? So this is just on top, $175 extra. So we got extra DMV fees, plus we got 20 cents a gallon per diesel. You say, well, I don't care, I don't drive a diesel. Well, everything that you slurp down or put on or rub on or jump into is trucked by diesel trucks. And so everything that you buy is going to go up in price. It has been going up in price. Gasoline went up 12 cents a gallon. We already have the highest gas taxes in the United States. Some people say, like when I flew to Albuquerque, New Mexico a year or two ago, I just flew about an hour, and the gas was $1 cheaper a gallon. That's a lot of money. Just think about how many gallons you got in your vehicle, how many gallon size tank you got. So this is one of those decisions that actually puts money back in your pocket. You think, oh, how's that going to work? Because people were sarcastically saying, oh, Trump's tax cut, I'm waiting to see the money, right? So the way this works is that once this is repealed, if you vote yes on 6, that repeals all these taxes. And the computation from the folks that are pushing this measure are that the average family will save between $700 or $650 to $800 a year, a family of 4, typical family of 4. Or if you're not even a family of 4, but you just drive a lot, or if you're a trucker, you're going to pay more than that, right? If you're driving for a living, if you're delivering in your family car, or you're running, say you're a salesperson or whatever. And so the other thing that's cool about Measure 6 is that it forbids the legislature from ever raising taxes in this fashion again by 2/3 unless the citizens also vote on it. The citizens have to vote on it. And so that's a great help, because what happens is the legislators constantly figure out a loophole to beat the people up and beat their way around a loophole and work their way around to do things that the people vote to stop. It's happened over and over and over again. So, yes on 6 is going to repeal or turn back or reduce your gas pump taxes and your DMV fees. Next, now here's the thing. You're hearing in the media that, oh my God, we were just now getting all these roads fixed, and now they're going to stop all these road improvements. That is 100% false. It's a lie. Let me explain something to you. There was plenty of money. There's plenty of money in the form of taxes and fees coming into the California state government. I think the assemblyman mentioned there was $200 billion this budget, last budget, $200 billion. And so what's happened is that the Democrats, led by Governor Brown, they feel that in fact, they use this term, that if you're living in California, you're a freeloader. Now, a freeloader to me is somebody that's a moocher, getting something for nothing. I've never felt I was mooching. I've always worked. I've never been on government assistance. I've never collected unemployment. I've never been on any disability. And so I don't understand that term in my life. No, my father, my mother, my sister, my brother, no one collected anything like that. We just all worked. We're all blue collar type folks. And so to say that is a little bit off-putting to me. Now, when you look at the taxes, now if you go to a Facebook site, No on Measure K, you may be able to find a post that shows about 60, 70 taxes that you're already paying. Now, I've looked up lists on the internet, and they're easy to confirm. You know most of those taxes when you look at it, but you never think of it as a one big list. You just think, oh yeah, we're getting taxed. Like I was looking at my Pacific Gas and Electric bill the other day and my water bill for Cal Water, and both of them had taxes. I'm getting taxed on electricity, tax on water. And so everything we do or move or whatever, we're getting taxed on. So you're paying some of the highest taxes in the United States of America in this state. So, my friend, and I won't divulge who it is, I was in a discussion with him. His son works in a construction management firm, or in management in a construction firm, and he knows Caltrans people. People work for the Department of Transportation. I think they have over 20,000 employees. I want you to hold that figure in your mind. 20,000 employees. A few years ago, the state of California did an audit on Caltrans, like, are we running efficiently? And they came back and said, hardly. We're running horribly. We waste a lot of money. A mile of road to pave in California is like almost 2 times as much as it costs in some of these other states. And we have 3,500 more employees than we need. So let's lay them off. Governor Brown refused to do that. So we have a lot of waste, but Caltrans, some of the workers, sometimes they have a moment of clarity and are transparent. And they said, we don't know what we're going to do with all this money. Yeah. They just said we got all kinds of money. And we are not going to be hard up on this. So whatever you hear in the media is all politics. It's what they call fake news, right? That's a popular term, fake news. So you can choose to believe it or not. And when even the representatives that represent the Yuba Sutter area and some of you other counties up in the north here, when they actually say that there's plenty of money in the budget without this SB1 money, which is going to be repealed if yes on 6 goes through, we don't need that SB1 money. 50-some billion dollars over 10 years. It's a 10-year tax. So, I just saw something come across my email earlier today. It said that some surveys show this as a dead heat on Measure 6. Now, early on, it was, what you have is all the construction firms, the unions, the construction unions, the teachers' unions, the firefighters' unions, the police unions. That doesn't mean that all these individuals are for this tax. They're bosses, political bosses in the unions that are getting paid $500,000 or more. These people are the ones, they're controlling the state, and they're supporting what Governor Brown wants to do in this case, because he supports them and gives them what they want. So you're going to see all these ads that there's going to be Armageddon if we repeal this tax. So I'm just encouraging you, if you aren't registered to vote, go to register to vote, all one word, register to vote, .ca.gov, and it should pop right up there, and then you just follow the directions, okay? That should get you registered, and then you could always, in about 24 hours, you can go back and see if it actually went through and you're good to go. And then you can go to whatever county you registered in and find a place to vote, okay? So that's yes on 6. So yes on 6 repeals taxes. It's going to put $800 in your pocket. In fact, some of you may reduce it by $1,000. Some of you truckers that had to pay DMV fees on those big rigs, plus you're paying 20 cents a gallon on diesel. Now, it's amazing to me, as I was studying up on this a few weeks ago, $1 billion. Just think of this. You know, the other day I had to drive a drug addict down to Stockton. I hadn't been to Stockton in ages. I hadn't been in the city ever, inside the city. I've driven on I-5 going to Mexico some. So, man, when I got on I-5 out of Sacramento, it was just bumper to bumper trucks. It was fascinating. Bumper to bumper. It's just those trucks, man, they're hauling all our goods. And so, those guys and gals driving those big rigs are spending a lot of money, when you add 20 cents a gallon onto those big rigs, plus all the DMV fees. Now, if you, so that's 6, okay? So vote for 6 to reduce your taxes. You got it? And you're also going to put a limitation on the legislators. I love this part. If 6 was just about this, I would vote for it as well. Putting a limit on the legislators to raise your tax unless all the people agree. Don't you feel like they keep raising stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff? You don't have a say, and you just feel like you're getting screwed all the time. That's how I feel. The other thing is, in Yuba County, and I know up in Butte County over in Oroville, I think you have a tax. And I know we got a call last year. I think last week, was it Gary that called from Chico? What? Anyway, a really sharp guy called from Chico, and he was very concerned they're going to add a tax up there. So Gary, if you're listening from Butte County today, go to No on Measure K on Facebook and take a look at that, and then get a hold of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Just go to hjta.org, Whoever out there can listen, and if you feel like your politicians are wanting to raise taxes, go to hjta.org. They'll tell you how to oppose it. And they also have attorneys down there to tell you what's legal and et cetera. So in Yuba County, we're fighting a sales tax increase of 1%. That'll push us from 7.25 to 8.25. So some of you are saying, if you don't understand this, you're saying, oh, well, I'll just go over to, oh, by the way, somebody told me that the Linda Walmart out in Yuba County is the busiest Walmart. How can that be? The busiest Walmart ever all over the country? But they say that is one busy place, but they just shut it down at midnight, from midnight to 6, because they can't stop the thievery. And, but you might say, oh, well, I'm in Yuba County. I'll just shop in Sutter County because you can get 7.25%. That'll work, but you have to pay the gas to go over there instead of buying it if you're a Walmart shopper, or you buy other stuff, other items that are taxable in Yuba County. You eliminate that, travel over the bridge. You can do that. Or you can go up to Nevada County. But here's the problem. This is where they take it to you. When you buy a vehicle, any kind of vehicle that needs to go through the DMV and get tags, right? A trailer, a motorhome, a car, a truck, it doesn't matter whether it's for private or business use, you're going to pay an extra 1%. And you think, well, I'll just go down and buy in Sacramento. That I may get a better buy down there anyway. Maybe, maybe not. But here's where you're going to get stuck. They're going to, when they pull, they're going to ask you your name and address to register it for you if you're buying it from a dealer. And then when they put that in and they pull up your name and your zip code where you live, then it will add the tax for where you live, not where you buy it from. You see how that works? Or you think, well, I'm just going to buy for a private individual. Okay. So you go down to Sacramento, you find a car on the internet you like, and you buy it from an individual. So then you drive it back home, and you go over to DMV to register it, and at that time, they call that a use tax then, and it will be the same thing. They will, when you give them your address, your residence address, they will charge you the Yuba County rate no matter where you buy it. If you try to buy it from Germany or out of Slombodia, it doesn't matter. It's where you register your car, the address you register at. Now, the DMV is already on the lookout for people that have, if you say, oh, I'm going to register in Nevada, they'll beat the whole thing. I say, oh, good for you, or Oregon, or somewhere else. The problem is if you park that car in Yuba County, for instance, and your neighbor turns you in because you live there and you live there all the time and you're doing work here, but you got an out-of-state plate, the CHP will tag you and they will cite you for that and make you go get a whole new set of whoop-de-doo. So you're going to get caught up here, right? And it's just like over in communist countries. People turn each other in, right? They throw each other under the bus all the time because they want to get in favorable with the authorities. So they turn in their folks, say they're talking trash about the big boss, and then they throw them in jail. So no on K is going to save you 1% for 10 years. Yes on 6 is going to save you probably about $7,000 to $8,000 over 10 years. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Is that a lot of money to you? I don't know how much you make nowadays, but that, like on I'm like when I started collecting Social Security, Obama was in the White House. I called it my Obama money. All right, we're going to come right back, and then we got 2 hours and a half yet to go. We're going to run it up to noon. Welcome back. Lou Benninger here. We're talking about the election coming up November 6th. Many people, a lot of my friends, felt that the last presidential election was maybe the tipping point of whether the nation would ever be anything like what we remember back in patriotic days, or when we believed, loved, and relied on the Constitution and respected our police and our military and had good old American values. So it was all at risk, right? And people were kind of shocked when President Trump was running for office, and it seemed like a long shot, didn't it? Because everybody was against. Can you think of anybody that was for us? Let's see. We had CNN. All the major networks were against Trump, right? Hollywood was against Trump. Let's see, Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter, all against Trump, and were manipulating their ads and actually blocking people. It was just, and then there was a spy operation to try to undermine Trump. It was just amazing. To me, it's a miracle that he won. It's just a straight up. I don't know whether you believe in God or not, but I just think God responded to the prayers of people and just spared us. And some people are saying that, when I think that Trump's only been in there for 2 months, and I got a whole list of amazing accomplishments. Now, here's the interesting thing. Some of my friends don't understand me, and sometimes I don't understand I hear voices and stuff, So, if Obama had the accomplishments that Trump had, how could you argue with him, right? We put the whole nation to work. Black unemployment at the lowest in history, Hispanic unemployment lowest in history, on and on. Factories expanding, being built, car companies coming back to Detroit, Michigan. How could you argue with that? Whatever flavor your president was. I just don't, I don't get it, all this stuff. Some guy got, I put out these loose picks, my loose picks for people. Loose picks wasn't a voter plank. I got tired of talking on the phone all the time, so I just made a list. And if people said, Lou, what'd you do on this? Or, well, what'd you do on that? Or, I haven't had time to read this. I said, well, I don't have time to talk to you. If you want to see what I did, I'll send it to you. Right? Well, then people posted it on the doggone internet. And then it got everybody all pissed off. And, everybody said, I don't think you, what? Well, you voted first. I thought you were conservative, and you got a couple Democrats on here. Honestly, people, you're idiots. Some of you Republicans know the reason that California is so screwed up is there's a smell of mothballs around a lot of the old timers. They're thinking, they're walking around in 2018 thinking they're in the 1960s and acting like it. And they're clueless on what's going on. So I had a young guy call me the other day, a friend of mine, and he said, Lou, I don't understand what you did, because on my loose picks, I put Kevin De Leon. Well, he's running for U.S. Senator against Dianne Feinstein. And I said, well, actually, I'm voting for a guy that I have no agreement with on anything, I don't think. On anything. But I said, do you remember, I was talking to two different people, and one of them I said, do you remember World War II? Yeah. I said, do you have any problem with us hooking up with Joseph Stalin, who killed 25 million of his own people and murdered all kinds of people to take over countries? And there was just silence on the phone. And I said, do you understand that we didn't defeat the Nazis? We like to take credit for it. We defeated the Japanese, but it was the Russians that actually did the heavy lifting with the Nazis. You with me? So we didn't have any problem hooking up with, quote unquote, an enemy or somebody we didn't believe any of their philosophy. The leaders in the United States didn't believe any of the philosophy of Joseph Stalin, Russia, Soviet Union. But we hooked up with them, and we remained, our part of the world remained quite free, didn't it? And then we didn't have much to do with them after that. You remember that? You remember how that worked? Well, this is kind of the same concept. I reminded my young friend, I said, well, first of all, I don't know whether you enjoyed looking at that old warped woman's face day after day at those Kavanaugh hearings, but I'm tired of it, actually. And the longer you stay in these jobs, the higher and more powerful positions you get in the legislature or the Congress, whichever level you're operating at, right? You move up the ladder, move up the ladder, move up the ladder. So that's why she's on these intelligence committees and letting a spy drive her around, Chinese spy. And that's why she's on the Judiciary Committee and trying to block any conservative Supreme Court judges. And if you've been following this, there's a possibility we're going to get, Trump could appoint 2 or maybe 3 more Supreme Court justices, but only if you vote on November 6th and preserve your congressional candidates, right? Keep a conservative back there. Otherwise, if you lose the House, it screws everything up. But when De Leon, if he were to win, he would go back as a freshman senator. You don't have a lot of pop. Even though there's only 100 of you back there, you don't have the pop that Feinstein does. And then it gives you 4 years for all you old stogie Republicans that can't find your way out of the bathroom without a GPS. It gives you 4 years to figure out some guy or gal that's got some steam that could get in there and be a Republican, right, in 4 years. it's a long game. We got a war we're fighting here. And the way the Republicans have been, I think who's ever running the Republican Party in California is, he may have dementia or Alzheimer's, because these people are not doing anything smart out there. So anyway, I had mentioned, Kevin De Leon, and I think, I'm thrilled with my vote, and I hope that Kevin makes it. And, even though I don't agree with anything he's about, but if you notice, all you stuck in the mud Pharisaical conservatives out there, you don't have a conservative to vote for, and don't be stupid about writing in some buddy of yours and thinking you're doing something really smart. It ain't smart. It just ain't smart. Now, for you, I remember in the primary, some of you folks were so wobbly on John Cox, for goodness sakes, and you're all this Travis Allen group, and we have a chance. I mean, it's a long shot, but we do have a chance to get Cox in there. There's a chance, but people don't have any chance unless you register to vote this weekend and go down and vote. Go down and vote, and I'll send you my picks if you've never voted before and you don't have a clue, and you decide you get all fired up to do that. You can call me, text me at 713-1838. I'll help you. And it's no pressure. If you don't do what I do, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm just trying to get people to vote and to get a different leadership in California. Now, if Gavin Newsom gets in there, we got big problems. And, we're going to look at, funding. Basically, Gavin Newsom is going to provide health care for anybody in the world that can bust down that border. And right now we have people there's a caravan of folks from Central America that has been organized, probably by Soros and Barack Obama, and their people, and paid for to come up here and crash the border. They're going to crash the party. Now I want you to think about that for a minute, because if a military, group did that, we would take them out, right? But what they're trying to do is create chaos and unrest city by city by city. It's happening in a lot of major cities right now, and it's being funded. These people aren't just like taking time off from working at Taco Bell to go over there. They're getting paid to be professional organizers. In fact, one gal was arrested and was getting over $100,000 a year as a top executive coordinating these movements for Soros or one of these groups. So if you think these things are random people that are just genuinely, honestly upset, you're wrong. They're they're planned, they're equipped, and they're coming in to do damage, and now they're doing it from the inside, and they're doing it from the outside. So vote for Cox, because this Gavin Newsom is going to be trouble, trouble, trouble. All right. Now, let me move on from that and, get back over to my notes. So I want to thank, the Yuba Sutter, Constitutional Republicans, and they help us stay on the air. Some people think I'm making like millions of dollars a year. Actually, we pay to be on the air out here. And, so this coming Thursday, the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republican, if you've never heard of them, they kind of evolved from the Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots into an even more activist group called Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans. They put constitutional in there because they really want conservatives that love the Constitution and are going to base all their decision making on the constitutional points. So they meet the fourth Thursday of every month over in Yuba City. Anybody's welcome. You don't have to be some kind of member or something. So I think it'll be a good meeting this coming Thursday. It's the fourth Thursday at 441 Bridge Street. So they're there. You're there when you hit a little strip mall, L-shaped strip mall at Shasta and Bridge Street. And so it's Suite E, like in excellence, 441 Bridge Street. And let's see, they meet, they say they normally have that open during the week from 5 to 8, but I'm not sure what time the meeting. I'll have to look here in a minute. I'll square it away before we get done here. the meeting may start like at 6 o'clock or something. So, all right. I want to, also, if you have any questions, you can just shoot Tammy a call at 530-701-2845. 530-701-2845. The other thing is they have all kinds of Trump paraphernalia over there. Hats, caps, mugs, all kinds of stuff you can buy and support the president. And you can also get signs, Measure K signs. They may have some, yes on 6 signs, and they have no on K signs, probably. If you need a no on K sign, I have some as well. Just text me at 713-1838. I'll give you a spot to pick those up in Marysville. And we need to get the rest of those signs out. But they have signs and paraphernalia for all kinds of candidates, including the John Cox running for governor. Okay? So also, tomorrow, Sunday, the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight will have some of the folks from that group on from 1 to 3, talking about the candidates, the measures, what's shaking, and how you can help or how you can get involved, but probably just pushing you to vote, okay? So I was talking to Monty Hecker earlier today. He runs Elite Universal Security, and we were, I always like to hear Monty's stories because he's a security guy, so he tells me these cool stories of catching people and solving crimes, right? They're not cops, but they're a private security company that some of them are armed, I think, but most of them are not armed. But they're all over my neighborhood. I live in downtown Marysville. We got a major homeless problem in downtown Marysville, and we're trying to clean it up on our block. We got people sleeping around there, using it for a toilet, all kinds of stuff. And we've been cleaning up our little street around from the Dragon Inn and cleaning up the neighborhood, and we got rats in the house, and we evicted the human rats ahead of them. So now we're just poisoning the real rats, and we got rid of the human rats. They moved over to Sutter County, thank you, Jesus. And they were a big problem. And so, but we're just kind of cleaning up. I got a couple more cars to tow off there. We moved 12 vehicles off of 1 block area. 12 illegal vehicles off of 1 block area. Isn't that unbelievable? And so, thank you to the Marysville Police Department being like on it, man. Those guys and gals are on it. So anyway, Monty Hecker runs Elite Universal Security, and anytime you need to go in the courthouse in Yuba County or one of the county buildings, you'll see that their workers. But if you want a job, you can hook up with those people and you can get employed. 749-0280, 530 area code 749-0280. Good work. They will actually train you. You may not know anything about it, but so you can go on their website and check them out. If you don't want to just call them, you want to check it out first. It's called EliteUniversalSecurity.com. Or you can go on their training website, API-Academy.com, and they got all kinds of schooling. Some of it's online, some of it's in class, but they do it right here in Yuba County. And they have a firearms course coming up on October 27 and 28. It's in class and then out on the range and then recertification. Also, they're wanting to do a taser and pepper spray class on November 17th, but they need at least 3 students to sign up for that. So if you're interested in that, I think most particularly I think ladies would be, if they didn't want to pack a concealed weapon, at least carry some spray or something like that to, or just tase some dude. Just tase them and leave the taser with them. Just tase them and just toss the thing right out there and drive off. So, I think Monty Hecker also has no on K signs out on Feather Boulevard at 5548 Feather Boulevard, Olivehurst, or what I used to call West Linda. And he's there, they're there 24 hours a day, so you can just pull in there anytime. Like if you're tweaking, just go out there and get yourself a sign right in the middle of the night. All right. Okay. So thank you guys for helping us. Monty helps us to be on the air here, and we're very grateful for that. So, Teddy Roosevelt, one of our presidents, said, to anger a conservative, lie to him. To anger a liberal, tell him the truth. Just something to hold that thought. That's the thought for the day. I'm not charging you for that. To anger a conservative, lie to him. To anger a liberal, just tell him the truth. Now, I'm going to talk about some corruption here later, a Democrat corruption. When you, when I was a youngster and we used to do nuclear bomb drills in school, they would have fire drills and then they'd have a nuclear bomb drill. And we would get under the desk. Somehow that was going to keep us from getting nuclear spray all over us or something, whatever that stuff is. But, so anyway, well, I don't even remember where I was going with that. I lost my mind. So I wanted to talk about, here's what I wanted to talk about, is about Pravda. And so back in the days when we were fearing a nuclear attack from Russia, or Soviet Union as they used to call it, they always used to threaten, we're gonna take you over, we're gonna bomb you, we're gonna erase you from the globe, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And so they had this news group called Pravda. There wasn't like competitive newspapers, it was a national news outlet called Pravda. And they would just put out whatever the government spiel was. So if they had a free election, free within quotes, they would just say, Mr. Putin or Mr. Khrushchev or Mr. something was elected with 98% of the vote. Well, we just used to laugh over here because you knew that was fake news, right? We didn't call it fake news back then, but it was just fake news. Now, there's been a number of total scandals in the Democrat people running for various offices, but nobody is talking about it in the newspaper. And I'll talk a little bit, or on the television, or on the internet. One of the guys, I'll talk to him. I won't double dip on this, but it's just right in front of me, so I'm going to talk about it. Is this guy named Beto, or Robert Francis O'Rourke, or Beto O'Rourke, who's a Texan running against Senator Cruz down there. And he's all fired up, and liberals are pouring money into that race. Like, I think he's picked up over $30 million. Unbelievable. So he's running against him. But the interesting thing is, in 1999, he had a burglary, or 1995, he had a burglary arrest. In 1998, he had a DUI. In 2006, and also, I think he actually fled the scene on the DUI. In 2006, he had an eminent domain ethics violation complaint. Not quite sure what that amounts to. 2013, he admits to illegal Twitter stock purchase. Not quite sure how you do that. I never bought stock like that. Illegal Twitter, he admitted to it. And then in 2018, FEC charges illegal campaign contributions. So that's the elections people. So this is Beto O'Rourke, and you don't hear much about that, right? You just hear he's like, I just saw the other day, he's Kennedy-esque. He's Kennedy-esque, right? He's got the look of the Kennedys. So the other thing that I'm going to talk about later if I have time, they did a big bust in Texas with voter fraud with a bunch of Mexican ladies. Did you see that? Oh, it was amazing what they did. They call it seeding. I'm going to tell you about what it is. Hopefully, maybe you can remember to remind me, make sure I go back and cover that. Seeding in Texas, and they arrested 3 or 4 women that they didn't just like fill out some extra ballots. They scammed them off elderly people and filled out their ballots for them and sent them in, signed their name fraudulently. So what you remember in the Obama administration with let's see, Eric Holder and all those people they have a degree, but they're actually criminals in office. And so they would not convict black people of crimes because they said enough black people have been convicted, so we're laying off black people for a while. And then they made this big thing, whether it was Loretta Lynch, who came after Holder, or Holder, they said, we're not wanting anybody to have to identify themselves to vote. In fact, Governor Brown, I think, just passed a deal where people locked up can vote. So it's interesting because someone put together a list here, activities where requiring a photo ID is appropriate and not racist. So you have to do it to purchase alcohol, purchase cigarettes, open a bank account, apply for food stamps, apply for welfare, apply for Medicaid, apply for Social Security, apply for a job, apply for unemployment, rent a house, buy a house, apply for a mortgage, drive a car. You need some sort of ID, right? And then in most states, the activity where you do not have to you don't need an ID, it's voting. Isn't that interesting? It's all this is a big scam, and that's what all this border rushing is about. Rushing the border and getting people in the country and then getting them amnesty, whether it's DACA, right? These supposedly these children that aren't children. It's all a scam just to swing the vote and get control of the country and turn it into a socialist nation. If you think these are like wild terms I'm using, you just don't know you don't know what you're talking about or what you're thinking. So a lot of this is all coming down, what it comes down to, you think, oh, well, I don't, I'm not going to be able to make a difference, and I don't get involved politically. I remember, I've been involved in church for about 40 years. I wasn't raised that way, but I got converted. And I started going to church, and so many people, well, we don't want to get involved in politics. It's just dirty, and like, oh, come on. And most American Christians treat the Bible like a buffet. They just pick and choose what they want out of it and leave that other stuff for the other folks to pick at, right? And so where it talks about salt and light and people, some of the leaders, leading figures in the Bible like Daniel and Joseph, and all these people, they were involved in politics. And they did a good job. And Esther and all these people, they were involved at the top of the kingdom and saved a lot of people's lives, millions and millions of people, maybe bajillions of people. So, I want to talk about, let's see, we got 3 minutes here. Let's see. Oh, I'll just do this instead. I saw this. It just makes me sick. Somebody put together this photo, and it's a photo of a black man from during the slave, era, and it shows his back scarred by whippings. And then under it has 1815. Then in the middle photo, it has 1945. And there's all these skin and bones living Jewish people, looking at him in a concentration camp. And then 2018, it has a baby in the womb. And so anyway, above it says not a person, right? Blacks were considered not a person. Jewish people were considered not a person. And babies are considered not a person. And so, this guy who put this together, or Live Action put it together, the anti-abortion people, the people who think this way are Democrats and socialists. They're all Democrats and socialists. Bernie and Miss Cortez call themselves Democrat socialists. Take away the descriptive term and you're left with socialists, vomiting out the same tired and failed policies of Karl Marx. And so I don't know whether you remember that in the United States at one time, Democrats put people they thought they were mentally deficient, like minorities, in camps and sterilized them. Did you know that? They did that here. That's where they learned how to do it in Germany. You think, oh, we learned something from Germany? No, they learned it from here, from what they call the eugenics movement, which is that there's one pure race and all these other people are weeds, and we need to weed the garden, so we kill off all the Mexicans and blacks and all these other folks, right? So 60,000 babies have been killed. 60 million babies have been killed. 6 million Jews were killed, along with others. And then a lot of black folks were damaged and killed during the slavery movement. All considered non-people. All right, we'll be right back. All right, this is Lou Benninger, and that was if you were listening through that break, you listened to Malcolm X talking in the 1960s, and he said if you elect a group into power and they don't do what you want, you're a chump. And there just aren't Democrat black chumps. There's a lot of white Republican chumps as well who just been used, like little voting whores, and they used you to get what they want, and then they just throw you some crumbs. And so I think we need to get hardcore, both locally, in our counties, in our cities, and throw people out if we're unhappy with, even though we're friends with them, even though they've been around for 8 years, 4 years, whatever, and we think there needs to be a change. If we think, hey, we don't like the way the county's going. So Yuba County is managed its way into bankruptcy, basically. And it's in the county administrator has been Robert Bendorf. I think Robert's probably a nice guy. I don't have I'm not closely related to Robert. I've known him for many years. He started out being in law enforcement. But he just gone along with the plan. And that plan is to negotiate with unions, give them more than we can afford, and pay into CalPERS more than we can afford. So there's no way when the private sector who has to pay for all these pensions at CalPERS, there's no way that you can, you have to put aside all your retirement. 100% of what you're retiring on, you got to put it aside. Nobody else is paying that for you. You got to take it out of your salary. You're working for one of these companies in town, or you're a contractor, whatever. Whatever you want to put aside as a nest egg to live on, as they call it, a nest egg, when you retire, then you got that plus any interest or growth that money had. The difference with the county is they promised that once they hired a person, that they would pay them a salary for the days and years and months that they worked for the county, and then when they retire, they'll pay them the majority of that money. And I say majority, I'm saying over 50%, all the way up to 80, 90%. They'll pay them the majority of that money for the rest of their lives. Now, there is no way you can put a pencil to that and make that work out. There's no way that that's ever going to work out. And then what made it even worse is in these union negotiations, what Yuba County did. Now, I'm not going to talk about the other counties because the issue is Measure K. They want more money from you in Yuba County. And they say they are deceiving you. They're saying it's just for public safety. This money is going to get rid of some of the current debt for CalPERS. That's the retirement system in the state of California. It's the largest retirement system maybe in the world, certainly in the United States, and it's all screwed up. It's corrupt. It's screwed up. It's run by the union. It isn't running well, and they just gave their boss, who makes over $300,000 a year, an $84,000 bonus and a 4.4% raise, and they're turning around and they're asking the county to give them more money. Now, one of the problems is the pension structure itself. You can't afford to keep paying people nearly what you paid them when they were working for the rest of their lives, 10, 20, 30, 40 years out there. Secondly, you can't afford for people to not pay in their own pensions. People should be paid a wage, and then if they want to put some in a retirement account, they should put it in a retirement account. If they don't have to. They can spend it all now. Everyone out there that earns their own money, self-employed or whatever, you determine whether you're going to save any money or how you're going to do that. It's up to you. But we cannot afford, as a county, I can't speak for you other counties. You're going to have to sort that out with your own budget. But we cannot afford to pay into CalPERS a percentage. In other words, we say, you work for us, we're going to pay you, and we're going to pay some of your retirement contributions for you. I think that's got to stop. And the entire retirement structure of continuing to pay people. Listen, when you're retirement age, most people are not raising kids anymore unless they're raising their grandkids. And they've paid for their house unless they've been really stupid. And they don't have the kind of costs of putting kids through school and all the expenses that you have in your younger years. And so you don't need that kind of money, and why put that burden on the back of the taxpayers? That's who's having to pay that out of the general fund. So when you look at the budget, there's less and less money of the Yuba County citizens' tax dollars that are going to serve the people of Yuba County in police and fire, patch the roads, etc., etc. So if they need to lay off, now my understanding is they took $1 million recently out of the health department because they had to put money into the jail. The supervisors did. And I don't know all the details, but we may just have to shut down entire county departments. Maybe I'll just shut down the whole doggone health department and see how that works for you. Maybe Adventist Health and Sutter North Health, Sutter North Medical ought to think about offering some services to the poor, and maybe the county can give them some help, right? Help shoulder the weight on that and let them take over instead of funding all these county employees and all these pensions. We need to look at a different way to do business, subcontract out a lot of our public works stuff. Maybe we're doing that now. Maybe we need a lot more of it done. But we can't afford to pay people these fantastic pensions and negotiate away the county wealth by giving it to unions. And so what's happened is the administrators in the county, and I noticed that one of the previous administrators that lives in Browns Valley is endorsing Measure K, in other words, raise the taxes. Well, he's part of the problem. All these guys that are retiring are part of the problem. They created this problem. In other words, particularly the administrators, the previous administrators, all the way down the line. They just all joined in, and they're just all going over the cliff together. I'm not into going over the cliff. I'm not into going over the cliff at all. Somebody needs to say, ain't gonna go over the cliff, and go head back upstream. So, that's one of the problems, and nobody wants to talk about that, and it's no secret all the way up and down the state. The public relations firms that are being hired illegally by county dollars are saying, do not mention in any of your pamphlets or on the air or in a public forum that this money is going to pensions and health. People will be pissed off and won't vote for it because they don't believe in it, because nobody in the private sector can have that kind of pension. They can't afford it. So then they turn around and force taxpayers to fund a pension they could ever have themselves. It's ridiculous. It's unfair. It's sinful, in fact. It's unequitable, and it's not right. And so what they do is deceive the public by saying, we all love our police and fire, and if you don't vote for this, then you hate police and fire. Now it's a lie, and that's casting a guilt trip on us. If most voters would say, let's shut down all kinds of county departments and give all the money to police and fire, that's what they would say. And for instance, when guys like Robert Bendorf, making up nearly $300,000 a year, and a lot of these top executives in poor Yuba County, making $240,000, $220,000, $250,000 a year, wages and benefits, and they can, without a smirk, without any bashfulness, ask us to give more and more money to the county so they can earn $250,000 and up a year. That's just absolutely nonsense. It's just total nonsense. So vote no on Measure K. Now I want to talk about, there's a guy named Chris Kyle that you might recognize that name. They made a movie about him. And I want to talk about him because I saw on the internet, and you never know the authenticity of these writings on the internet. But whether his wife wrote this or not, it still is a good letter. But I want to just give you a little background, and I want to give some respect and honor to Chris Kyle, because you remember when he was murdered, he was at a shooting range, and a guy that was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, instead of shooting the target, turned around and fired on Chris just standing there and killed him after he served overseas in a very dangerous situation. So I just want to give some honor to Chris here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Then I want to read a letter that his wife, his widow, wrote. So Chris was a United States Navy SEAL, veteran and sniper, served 4 tours in Iraq War, and was awarded several commendations for acts of heroism and meritorious service in combat. He was awarded 1 Silver Star Medal, 4 Bronze Star Medals with V devices, a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, and numerous other unit and personal awards. Kyle was honorably discharged from the U.S. Navy in 2009 and published his best-selling autobiography, American Sniper, in 2012. Then a film adaptation of Kyle's book, directed by Clint Eastwood, was made. In 2013, Kyle was murdered by Eddie Ray Routh at a shooting range, and Routh is doing life in prison. So let me tell you about a little bit of his history. Kyle was born in Odessa, Texas, the first of two boys, and to Debbie Mercer, and who married Wayne Kenneth Kyle, a Sunday school teacher and a deacon in his church. Kyle's father bought his son his first rifle at 8 years of age, a bolt-action 30-06 Springfield rifle, and later a shotgun, which they hunted deer, pheasant, and quail. Typical Texan. Kyle and his brother grew up raising, the boys raised 150 head of cattle at a time. Kyle attended high school during that time, raising cattle on their own, in Midlothian, Texas, and after graduating became a professional bronco rodeo rider and ranch hand, but his professional rodeo career ended abruptly when he severely injured his arm. After his arm healed, Kyle went to a military recruiting office. He was interested in joining the U.S. Marine Corps Special Ops, and a U.S. Navy recruiter convinced him to try instead for the Navy SEALs. Initially, Kyle was rejected because he had pins in his arm because of the damage that was done from injured off the bronc riding. But he eventually received an invitation to the 24-week basic underwater demolition sea, air, land SEAL training at Coronado, California, which is in San Diego area. He graduated with the 233rd class in March 2001. Assigned to SEAL Team 3, sniper element, within the Navy SEAL Warfare Command, and with 4 tours of duty, Kyle served in many major battles in Iraq. His first long-range kill was taken during the initial invasion when he shot a woman. And this is amazing. This is gnarly, man. His first kill was a woman carrying a hand grenade approaching a group of Marines. CNN reported that the woman was cradling a toddler in her other hand. As ordered, Kyle opened fire, killing the woman before she could attack. He later said, "The woman was already dead. I was just making sure she didn't take any Marines with her." It was clear that not only did she want to kill them, but she didn't care about anyone else nearby who would also have been blown up by the grenade or killed in the firefight. Children on the street, people in the houses, maybe her child. So I guess he killed her, and the baby survived. Because of his track record as a marksman, in Ramadi, the insurgents named him, in English, it's the Devil of Ramadi. They put a $20,000 bonus to kill him on his head and was later increased to $80,000. They posted signs highlighting the cross tattoo on his arm as a means of identifying him. His longest shot was a 2,100-yard shot. Now, a football field's 100, right? 21 football fields away, he shot an insurgent sniper, another sniper that he saw. I don't even see how you can see somebody that far away. They must be as big as the dot on the head of a pin. Kyle became known as the legend among general infantry and Marines whom he had the task of protecting. The nickname originated from Kyle's fellow SEALs following his taking of a sabbatical to train others, etc. I won't go through all the details. Pretty interesting stuff. He killed hundreds of people by snipers. So, here's a letter that supposedly was written by his his wife, his widow, Taya Kyle. Now, Taya Kyle, remember when he was murdered, Chris Kyle was murdered at the shooting range. Remember Barack Obama at that time was going to all those hoodlums' funerals and sending representatives? There was no one from the administration that thought Kyle was worthy after serving four tours of duty. Now, if you wonder if you've forgotten how different Obama is from Trump today was talking about how they're refurbishing the entire military, how some of the planes couldn't even get off the ground. Remember, it was Obama that fired over 200 leaders out of the military, and it was just, ran off the chaplains, brought in homosexuals, transsexuals, all kinds of weird stuff, right? You remember all that stuff? and was disrespectful to the military. Remember that? So this is a letter to Nike. It says, Nike, I love your gear, but you exhaust my spirit on this one. Your new ad with Colin Kaepernick. I get the message, but that sacrificing everything thing, it doesn't play out here. Sacrificing what exactly? A career? I've done that both times. I chose to stay at home and be with my kids instead of continuing my business climb, and it wasn't sacrificing everything. It was sacrificing one career and some money, and it was because of what I believe in, and more importantly, who I believe in. At best, that is all Colin sacrifice. Some money, and it's debatable if he really lost his career over it. Maybe he sacrificed the respect of some people when he gained the respect of others. Or maybe he used one career to springboard himself into a different career when the first one was waning. I don't know. What I do know is he gained popularity in magazine covers he likely wouldn't have gotten without getting on his knees and, or as you say, believing in something. I'm also thinking the irony is that while I am not privy to the numbers, it's likely he gained a lucrative Nike contract. So yeah, the whole sacrificing everything is insulting to those who really have sacrificed everything. You want to talk about someone in the NFL sacrificing everything? Pat Tillman. NFL starting Tillman, not benched, not a bench player who left to join the Army and died for it. That is sacrificing everything for something you believe in. How about other warriors? Warriors who will not be on magazine covers, who will not get lucrative contracts, and millions of followers from their actions, and who have truly sacrificed everything. They did it because they believed in something. Take it from me. When I say they sacrificed everything, they also sacrificed the lives of their loved ones who will never be the same. That is sacrificing everything for something they believe in. Did you get us talking? Yeah, you did. But your brand recognition was strong enough. Did you teach the next generation of consumers about true grit? Not that I can see. Taking a stand or a knee against the flag which has covered the caskets of so many who actually did sacrifice everything for something they believe in, that we all believe in? Well, the irony of your ad, it almost leaves me speechless. Were you trying to be insulting? Maybe you are banking on the fact we won't take the time to see your lack of judgment and using words that just don't fit. Maybe you are also banking on us not seeing Nike as kneeling before the flag. Or maybe you want us to see you exactly that way. I don't know. All I know is I was actually in the market for some new kicks, and at least for now, I've never been more grateful for Under Armour. All right. So I want to, we got a couple of minutes. Well, I want to tag team this article with an article quoting Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors, who has some comments. He's concerned about military displays, like when they do military honors or flag bearing, or they, when they do the flag honors, they walk in and play music, or they honor a military person at an event, or they unfurl a flag across the whole arena. He's concerned about it, that it shows too much nationalism. And Steve Kerr, at one time, I have a love for basketball. I played basketball through my childhood, and most of my interest in my childhood is waning now. Life changes, right? So, Kerr, took on the Golden State Warriors, and they've had this amazing winning streak. It's been kind of fascinating to me to watch it. I was particularly fascinated the first year or two, but they've gotten so anti-America, anti-Trump, anti-respecting our police and fire, that it's just taken the fun out of watching them. But I have respect for Kerr. His dad was murdered by the Hezbollah assassins, 2 shots to the head in Beirut, Lebanon, back in, I think, 1984. And at that time, Steve Kerr was a freshman at University of Arizona. He was going to play ball there. His dad was raised in Lebanon, and his mom and dad met, his grandma and grandfather met during the saving orphans and refugees from the Armenian genocide. And they got an amazing history of serving in the Middle East. And his dad was brilliant and has written some amazing books about Arab-Israeli issues and Arabs. And so Steve Kerr, one of 4 kids, ended up at the University of Arizona as a freshman, and that's where he learned his dad was shot in the head and his first year there playing basketball. So we'll talk about that when we come back, and we got half show yet to go. This is Lou Benninger, and we're out here in the state of Jefferson on top of Mount Huth. And we were talking just before the break about Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors and talking about military displays. But before we go there, since Wikiman played a clip or a commercial for a trauma intervention program, I wanted to mention something about it because I'm a part of it, and I'm the director of it. And trauma intervention is a national, as you heard there, it's a national organization, but we were the 8th chapter in Yuba Sutter counties, and so we have anywhere from 25, 35, 45 people, depending on the time of year, that go out on 911 calls with police and fire and the ambulance service and at the hospital. And we provide emotional and practical support to people going through the most horrific time of their life. Maybe their house burns down, their dad has a stroke, child gets run over, whatever. About 65% of the calls involve a death, but a lot of times they're horrific calls that don't involve death, but a lot of severe damage, and people are forced to make major changes in their life. And one of the things the reason TIP started in 1985 down in San Diego was because there was a gap between a lot of the survivors in a bad situation, an information gap, and people were frustrated in the emergency system because the emergency system was doing what it's called to do or its purpose to do. But a lot of times people had needs that the emergency system didn't have time to take care of. So now we have people in the Yuba Sutter area to do that. We've done it for, we're almost to our 25th year, and we're almost to our 11,000 call 911 response. And it hasn't cost the government one nickel. And so I figured out, using the amount of hours that we contribute every year, when I add up all the volunteer hours and it takes to run the program and people being on call, going on call, dispatching, the whole thing, we provide about, 40,000 hours a year, which if you multiply that times the average national volunteer, figurative amount that the federal government puts on, I think it's $23, $24 an hour that people are worth. It's about a $900,000 operation, right? And we do it all for less than $100,000 a year. So actually far less, but that's because we don't have any salaried people in TIP at this time. But most of the TIP programs in the United States have a couple salaried people. But it's still far cheaper than if government tried to do it. In fact, government just would never fund it. They couldn't afford it. So, and the fact is we provide a lot more efficient, effective service than government could ever. We just perform better than government. That's just the way it is. And, so each year at this time, up from now to the end of the year, we do some fundraising. We're trying to raise $40,000 and all the money. The cool thing is, in our organization, is all the money goes to either train people to serve victims or to the victims themselves, because we provide everything from blankets on cold nights when the fire burns them out or they get in a car wreck or whatever, to literature on grief, the death of a child, sudden infant death syndrome, suicide, all kinds of things. All our stuff is provided free, and we just provide all kinds of toys for kids and a lot of referrals for kids, help people figure out what the mortuaries are doing. It's a holistic kind of approach to caring for those that have a disaster in our area. I always say, if you're going to have a disaster, if you're scheduled for a disaster in your life, having it in Yuba Sutter County is the best place, because we provide a higher level of care. If you're interested in donating to nonprofits, like sometimes you give to a nonprofit and you later realize 25% of it goes to administration, or the boss is getting $200,000 or $300,000 a year, you think, geez, Louise. So with this situation, your money's actually going to the end product. So if you're interested, we used to do dinners, and we've done all kinds of things, sold fireworks, dinners, all that. But last year, we just simply went to people that believed in us and said, if you believe in us, if you give us money, all the money will go to your end product, and we don't have to buy anything, instead of giving a portion, giving your money to us, and a portion of it goes to the end product, and the rest of it goes to a product, we'll apply all of it. So I'll mention it now and again, but if you want to contribute to TIP, you can just write a check to TIP. It's tax deductible, and you can just send it to P.O. Box or Box 645, Marysville, 95901. And again, we serve Yuba and Sutter counties. Occasionally we'll cross into another county if California Highway Patrol asks us to, or whoever asks us. We'll, like up in the Engelbrecht Dam area above Yuba County, half the dam, if you've never realized this, half of it's Nevada County water and half of it's Yuba County water. So we've been up there before when both counties were working on rescuing people or finding people that had gone missing in the water. So TIP, Box 645, Marysville, 95901. Our goal is to raise $40,000 here in the next couple of months. And, if you want a tax deduction, we'll give you one, and you'll do us a great favor to help us out. So I was talking about Steve Kerr. He's the coach, a very good coach. He's a very good basketball player. I think he has about 5 national championship NBA rings, played with Michael Jordan. He seemed like a very fine guy, family man, loves his kids, nice guy. And he suffered a lot of trauma in his life from the sudden death of his dad. And I think his dad was 52. I'll tell you a little bit about his dad in a minute. But this is a quote from Kerr. He says, sometimes it's really inspiring, like a display at an event, military display. You see a mother or a daughter or a father and a son reconnected after a tour of duty, and everybody gets emotional, and sometimes it feels like we're being patronized. I thought, I don't know what that means. Like this is being used. We're just playing a sport here, and it feels sort of nationalistic, if that makes sense. So we are kind of wandering down a dicey path on this front. And when people say these kind of things, I always think, even the fact that they can pull off an event where there's 20,000 people in a building and nobody blows it up, it's because you got military involved, you got Secret Service involved, you got FBI involved, and all around are wondering if somebody's going to try to hit an arena or a stadium, and they're all protecting these guys, and it starts out in foreign countries, and it ends up out right down on the street by the Golden State Arena in Oakland. But yet they don't. It's a dicey thing for them. So Kerr also told this guy that he thinks that the September 11th terrorist attack spurred a strong military dynamic at sporting events that continues to this day. I don't think that's true. I think as long as I can remember, there have been military displays, whether it's jet planes flying over for special games or something, right? But this is what got me, and I got totally blindsided by this because I thought that the NFL was patriotic at one time. I just assumed that because I'd see these patriotic things, and I thought it was a part of the NFL. I thought they had a partnership like with the NFL, like when there's special events around our town, sometimes we like to have Beal come with a color guard. And like we do the National Day of Prayer, or sometimes even I think at the Women's Friend Banquet, which is happening right now out at Church of Glad Tidings, the Crisis Resource Center, Pregnancy Crisis Resource Center, whatever you call that. They changed the name. I can't ever keep up. But, probably they have a color guard out there or something. And so anyway, in 2015, Senators John McCain and Jeff Flake, which neither of them were favorite senators of mine, they released a report that detailed how the Department of Defense had spent $6.8 million on display of paid patriotism. In other words, it's advertising, and they gave our tax dollars to just promote themselves. Now, I don't know what you feel about that. I'm going to get to it in a minute on what I feel. McCain and Flake cited one example in which New York Mets received $10,000 in taxpayer money for a pregame military swearing-in ceremony on the field. Military Services has spent $53 million in total on sports marketing contracts. In other words, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, basketball, hockey, and soccer, the soccer leagues, 5 different leagues, are cashing in millions of dollars. They're benefiting by these military displays. And I wonder whether they're even necessary and why we would spend military dollars for this unless they think it's a recruiting agent, right? It's a recruiting. You know how you go down and you have a billboard, we want you, or, one of the new slogans. You see them around town here in the Yuba Sutter area sometimes with Air Force stuff on it. But at least 8 NBA teams, the Pacers, Atlanta Hawks, Minnesota Timberwolves, Charlotte Hornets, Dallas Mavericks, Portland Trail Blazers, San Antonio Spurs, and Boston Celtics have all received taxpayer money for shows of patriotism in partnership with the military. It's just interesting. It got me to thinking. What do you think? You think you should think they should do it, or you think they're not? You're not sure. You think they should do it? Spend the money and advertise at the events. Okay. WikiMan thinks it's a good value. So maybe it is good value. The idea is, it's interesting. I was trying to think who it was that said this. Oh, we had 2 police officers from Marysville and speak at trauma intervention. We were given a refresher on going out on calls with the law enforcement. And he commented how he got involved in law enforcement. He was attending Lyndhurst High School. And an officer came in and gave a talk. And he thought, I want to be like that guy, right? And so, as a youngster who had no idea what he wanted to do, he decided to be an officer, and he pursued that, and now he is one. He's a detective. The other guy, Lemire, Zach Lemire, I think he served 2 tours in Iraq, and saw a lot of action, and then he became, when he got out of the service, he became a officer. He's worked in law enforcement for a while now. But let me just say, Malcolm Kerr, the father of Steve Kerr, who's coaching the Golden State Warriors, Malcolm Kerr died in 1984. He was president of American University in Beirut, and Malcolm Kerr's youth was spent in Lebanon near the campus of the place he became president. And his parents taught for 40 years at American University in Beirut. His parents were Elsa Reckman and Stanley Kerr. And they were married in Marash, Lebanon, where they met while they were rescuing Armenian women and orphans after the Armenian genocide. It's just fascinating what people do with their lives, right, and how they meet. Bruce Taylor. Remember Bruce Taylor, the missionary from Thailand? He met his wife, who's Hmong, in a Cambodian refugee camp. They were both rescuing Cambodians that were fleeing the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot, and that's how he met his wife. And they've been working in Thailand for 20-some years. Bruce is out of Texas. So Elsa and Stanley Kerr were rescuing Armenian women and orphans after the Armenian genocide. They moved to Beirut and after they married, and his father became the chairman of the Department of Biochemistry at this university, and his mother was dean of women at American University in Beirut. During World War II, the family, this is the grandparents of Steve Kerr, or the parents of Malcolm Kerr. So during World War II, the family relocated to Princeton University in New Jersey. Following the war, they returned to Beirut, where Malcolm attended the New American School at Beirut. In other words, an international school. Anyway, Malcolm ends up, Steve Kerr's father, becomes an intellectual scholar. He had a doctorate, he did doctorate work, all kinds of places. John Hopkins, all over the place. All kinds of Arabic studies, very intellectually accomplished guy. But one day, as he was standing or leaving the university, the Hezbollah people, and nobody has ever figured out exactly why, he was married at that time to Ann Zwicker Kerr, and they had 4 children, and the kids were scattered around the world. They were international, a family, and they'd been all over. And when then he was shot twice in the head, nobody quite figured out why they killed him. And he wasn't necessarily just all about Israel. He said he had concerns about the whole place, bringing peace to the place of the Middle East. So I just think it's interesting the influences we have in our lives, and so Wikiman he put a vote for continuing to advertise at sporting events because they get a lot of looks from, I guess, the people there, and if they catch it on, I see it on Facebook, where they'll bring somebody that's at the game and they'll bring them out, and their dad or mom will come out of the side entrance all dressed in camos. They just blew them in. It's a surprise. So anyway, that's that. So I'll leave that with you to think about when you see Steve Kerr on the sidelines, and he lives down here in the Bay Area. And he seems like a pretty nice guy, but I think he's got the liberal persuasion, and just sad to see his lackadaisical attitude towards the military. Maybe he thinks we can get by without it. I wanted to mention, as I asked Wikiman to remind me about seeding. If you've ever heard of seeding, I've never heard of this term seeding. So you remember under Obama, whenever a conservative would bring up the idea of voter ID, it was just like, that's just like you're Nazis. You're going to keep blacks and that poor people of color are too stupid to get an ID. And most poor people, they would suggest that most poor people don't have IDs. They can't figure out, they're not smart enough to get an ID. And you're actually going to keep them away from the polls by having an ID. And, so anyway, and then they bring up the fact that there's no proof that there's any voter fraud. Well, that's just a major lie. There's thousands of cases of voter fraud every year. So I thought when I saw this article, it was so fascinating because you hear people falsely registering people. They're doing it like one time we had a case here in Marysville where a bunch of people got registered to vote to support a candidate, a city council candidate, and they registered them all at a pool hall. In other words, all of them had the same address, the pool hall, right? And they picked up on it, and people got arrested and fined and stuff. So it says four indicted in voter fraud ring. That's a pretty big deal. Voter fraud ring, allegedly targeting elderly Texans. And 4 North Texas women, allegedly members of an organized voter fraud ring, were indicted on 30 felony counts of voter fraud, and they were investigated by the Texas AG, Attorney General. These defendants were paid to target elderly voters in select northern Fort Worth precincts in a scheme to generate large number of mail-in ballots and harvest them. It's the seeding harvest, harvest them for specific candidates in 2016. This is a Democrat move here. And, according to the AG's office. So the AG has an election fraud unit, said the women carried out this scheme by seeding, in quotes, or proliferating mail ballots to the targeted precincts through forged signatures. In other words, they would request a ballot on behalf of somebody, but then they would get the ballot, they would intercept the ballot. And they would altering historical applications and resubmitting them without the voter's knowledge. So they'd vote for the person and sign the person's name. The AG's office did not state which candidates' races this involved, or how the fraudsters were compensated. So, it mentions Leticia Sanchez, 57, faces 17 counts. Now she just didn't go out and forge one item. 17 counts of voter fraud, including marking one voter's ballot without his consent and providing forged signatures for 3 people on March 16 ballot, She altered and submitted mail ballot applications for 13 people in Democratic Party primary races. So it's a Democrat gig to push a certain candidate. So then Letitia's daughter, Leticia Sanchez Tepichin, in other words, we got Leticia, and this is Leticia, and my daughter Leticia. Everybody's Leticia in that family. She faces 9 counts of voter fraud. Then we got Maria Rosa Solis, 40, was charged on 2 counts for forged signatures on 2 early voting ballot applications. And Laura Parra, 24, faces 1 count of forging a signature on an early voting ballot application. Ballots by mail are intended to make it easier for Texas citizen seniors to vote. The unfortunate downside, the AG said, is the extreme vulnerability to fraud. So if you get a absentee ballot, anybody can grab that dude out of your mailbox, right? If you don't see it first, fill it out, sign your name, and hope it goes through, right? Because your name's on there. All you need to do is sign it. Paxton, the AG, said, my office is committed to ensuring that paid vote harvesters, and it's interesting, vote harvesters who fraudulently generate mail ballots, stealing votes from the seniors, are held accountable, They're despicable actions. So the AG's office said, when ballots are mailed out by election officers, harvesters attempt to either intercept the ballots outright or to assist elderly voters in voting their ballots. In other words, they say, I'll vote for you. You want this? Okay, I got that. And they vote whoever they want. They ask them questions and they cheat. And they change what the folks want. In most cases, the voters do not even know their votes have been stolen. We'll be right back. All right. Well, we're into our last hour here, and for you that popped in midway, we're pre-recording Friday night and for Saturday, so you can't call in and chat with us live, but we're doing fresh material here. And I want to remind you, latecomers, that you need to register to vote, and it isn't too late. You can register Saturday or Sunday, and you can just go online and do it. You go to register to vote, one word, .ca.gov, register to vote.ca.gov, and then just follow the directions. It's really simple. I checked it out. I was already registered, but I thought I'm going to check it out so I don't lead you astray. So please vote. Now, I was just thinking about, as we were listening to the break here, about Yuba County and Measure K, and they're asking us to give them another 1% of our income, anything we buy, 1% tax extra on anything we buy. And but I always ask the question: how are they doing spending the money they have over there at Yuba County? And there's a separate agency that doesn't feel that it has anything to do with the citizens of Yuba County now. They just changed their name from Yuba County Water Agency, which it's been since the 1950s. But they no longer want to be identified with the county. So they say they're a standalone government entity, Yuba Water Agency. And I can't figure out how they're not connected to the people of Yuba County, because the people of Yuba County actually voted to allow the bonds to happen to build Buller's Bar Dam and that whole water resources project. They had to have the people vote on it. But then when they get all the money and they got all these people earning a couple $100,000 a year, they don't want anything to do with the people of Yuba County. They call them a standalone. They don't think they'll share the wealth with Yuba County. Now, the odd thing is, Yuba County what it used to be called the Yuba County Water Agency. Now they like to call themselves Yuba Water Agency. They like have about $100 million in reserves. That's a lot of money. And they're bringing in a good year selling power and water. Now that Yuba County gets all of it, PG&E's out of it after 50 years, and all the bonds have been paid for. It's paid for. All you got to do is fix everything, maintain everything, pay all your employees, and all the gravy stays in Yuba County. The odd thing is that the county of Yuba has been giving the water agency $400,000 a year for some reason. Now that don't make sense. The county of Yuba, which takes the people's taxes, and they say they don't have enough of them, and then they turn around, all you people are voting for Measure K, that you want to increase the tax on yourself. Do you know that an entity that has $100 million in reserves is getting some of your tax dollars instead of going to public safety? They're getting $400,000 a year. Now, how many law enforcement fellas and ladies could you hire? 2? 2.5? 2.25? I don't know. Wiki Man said you should be able to hire 5 of them. He's going to run a lean and mean. He should be we need to vote Wiki Man for sheriff next time around. He's going to be a new sheriff in town. He says, on the weekends he can run the board, and the rest of the week he can take care of the sheriffing duties. $400,000 of our tax money every year for many, many years. And John Missler, who's running for supervisor up in the 5th District as a write-in candidate, he's asking that the water agency, who has an overabundance of money, they're overflowing with money, he says, why doesn't the water agency pay back all this money for the last 10 or 15 years to Yuba County and just give it back to them? You got the money, and let us forget the tax and make some adjustments on the payroll systems and the pensions and hire all the deputies we want to our heart's desire. Just put a deputy behind every house. Just a thought. Now, I just got a text, and I want to double check something. I just got a text. So, one of my most commented on shows was when I talked about the Jason Parker debacle, where he used to be one of the most talked about and praised lawmen in the Yuba Sutter counties with over a 20-year career. And when he went to work for the DA's office in Sutter County, we thought it was a marriage, a working marriage made in heaven, because he was going to be working with a new district attorney named Amanda Hopper. We all thought she was a really honest, reputable person, and we thought Jason was a great detective, and they rebuilt that department after the resignation of Carl Adams. And so in the first year, they were going gangbusters and arresting a lot of murderers and sexual perverts and all that kind of stuff. And then there began to be an incident develop in the DA's office between DA Hopper and one of Parker's investigators, a romance maybe. I wasn't there. I didn't watch it. But that's what they tell me. There was a rumor in the office, and it blew up, and so she removed Parker from his job. He was later fired by Sutter County. And so I read an incident report, an interview by the Solano County deputies that came over and interviewed a guy that Parker arrested, that there was this and such said about the incident, and it was all a lie by Brandon Oakley. He lied about it. And that's what Parker said. He later filed a complaint because he maybe had a romance with the DA. Like I said, I didn't see it, but that's what some people in the office said. And so when Parker got sideways over this problems in the office and got sent to outer Slombodia, couldn't work in his own office by the district attorney, and then they fired him. he considered an unlawful firing because they really didn't prove anything that he did wrong, worthy of firing. You know, it's awful hard to fire a government employee. Do you know that? It's very hard. Sometimes I think, how come they haven't fired that person? Well, we just can't fire him. That's what some of my friends say that work in government. We just can't fire that person. So, anyway, they've been in court. And anyway, I read this deposition, this interview with this guy who was arrested that night. And so Brandon Oakley claimed that Parker threatened this guy, was going to take him to the river bottoms and kill him and all that kind of stuff. And the guy got interviewed and interrogated by these officers, and he never did say that Parker did. Wouldn't you say that if a cop said that to you and then you were interviewed in a deposition? Wouldn't you said, well, he said he's going to shoot me in the head, right? That'd be right on the front of my mind. But it wasn't on this guy's mind. So he basically didn't confirm the testimony of Oakley that he gave down at the Sacramento, the court. So I just got a text here, and it said the judge in Sacramento has ruled that Parker's termination was unlawful. And he ordered that he be reinstated. And the judge said that Brandon Oakley's statement was not credible. In other words, he was dishonest. A cop was lying. That's what the judge said. The cop, Brandon Oakley, was lying. And there's more to it, but I'm just getting a text here. And so it's going to go back to the Board of Supervisors in the first meeting of November for them to... What'd you say? What'd you say?
The Sutter County Board of Supervisors?
Now the judge is referring it back to the supervisors to tell them what he's ruled and tell them...
I'm going to be there. I'm taking a day off if I have to.
Okay. Wiki Man's getting all excited over here. I'm going to have to take his blood pressure. We may have to do CPR over here. Anyway, the first meeting of November, whichever day that is, at the Board of Supervisors, if you want to see something interesting, you're going to see some supervisors squirming because they can still fire him. And then what's going to happen? Is they're going to have a lawsuit and they'll pay him off, right? They'll cash him out, right? And so obviously, Amanda Hopper isn't going to want him back in her office, right? And we got a judge. You know, they were always saying, Amanda Hopper's office trashed Parker and a fellow named Dave Williams who had a 29-year service record, impeccable service record with Sutter County. He served as Sutter County Sheriff's Department, then he was a deputy DA, and actually went and got his law license while he was serving. He wasn't a deputy DA, he was an investigator. Then he went, while he was an investigator, went and got his law license. Very capable. I've known David Williams since he was like in diapers almost. So anyway, she said that these two guys lied, but now the judge says, no, it was Brandon Oakley that lied. He wasn't credible. His testimony was not credible. So the reason we can tell it wasn't credible, that the judge was not let in on the fact of the deposition done on the perpetrator that was in the car. The perpetrator's testimony contradicted Oakley's, but the judge never saw the perpetrators. They hid it. And so now it's all come out. And so the judge is saying to the county, my recommendation is you reinstate this dude. You fired him illegally. And Parker pleaded with them, email after email, you're doing the wrong thing. You know, here's the thing. You got all these human resources people that are making $150,000 a year, right? And the Sutter supervisors and all these people always say, you get what you pay for, right? So they paid this gal all this money, and then she can't even fire somebody correctly. It's like they got if you think you got a county counsel, she's an attorney. You got a human resources officer, that's a female, very accomplished people, highly educated, getting a lot of money. Both of them probably together they're making $300,000 a year to the package. And they cannot give the right advice to the supervisors. And then you got Scott Mitnick. I don't know how much Ventura Scott, right? He lives in Ventura County. And, so he can't, and when Scott Mitnick gets in the meeting, he can't even figure out where, when I fly around, when I fly overseas, sometimes I go from Laos to Vietnam to back to Hong Kong. Sometimes I get confused. What country am I in anyway? I do. My head is just like this jet lag. I think Scott Mitnick thinks half the time he's in Ventura County, and he's actually sitting right here in Sutter County. Anyway, you got Scott Mitnick is making over $300,000. You got $600,000 between three people. And they can't fire a person correctly. Right? And now, if they pay Parker off because they fired him incorrectly, and the judge says, listen, you need to give this guy his job back. Right? He has some rights. So I just want to say, a lot of people have said to me, Lou, I've had more comments about my articles about Jason Parker and the radio show about Jason Parker saying, Lou, we had no idea. We had no idea. Reading the Appeal Demagogue, the Pravda, that's the Yuba County's Pravda newspaper. They're just, in Sutter County, they're just government, it's a government mouthpiece. They never could figure out. They just saw this Parker. A lot of people that know Parker, know his family, knew him, know his whole upbringing. And it just didn't match. It didn't fit. It didn't fit Jason. They know his wife. They know his kids. They know his dad. In fact, I was just with his dad last night. And, it didn't fit. And so when they finally heard the testimony from the guy that was arrested that was being taken to the hospital in the car, that supposedly this Oakley said Parker said he was going to shoot him and break his, I don't know what, there was more than shooting him. It was something else he was going to do to him. Anyhow, that's the news. I don't know whether you're going to hear it here first. It doesn't make any difference whether I say something first. Anyway, I don't really care. All I care about is the fact that it's going back to the Board of Supervisors, and some of those guys need to put on a set of depends for that meeting because they may piddle their pants trying to make a decision over there. Plus, you got Jim Whitaker, who's got cases stacking up against him. Women keep coming out of the woodwork saying he grabbed me too. We got a Me Too movement here in Sutter County. So anyway, that's some new information that just popped through the text. The Wire, it came in on the Wire. So listen, you people want to go yes on K because you think we're all out of money and you think you're going to be dissing law enforcement and fire. Listen, what I would ask everybody to do is call the county government and ask, why in the world? Call your county supervisor and say, how come you can't take that $400,000 that we're given to a company to a separate company now, don't want anything to do with the city, the citizens of the county, Yuba Water Agency, that got $100 million laying around in the bank, and how come we got to pay $400,000 our sparse tax dollars to let you guys make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year over there? Doesn't make no sense to me. So I'm feeling good right now. I feel like I ought to go get a taco or something, take the rest of the night off. We got 30 minutes to go here. So anyway, hey, listen, you guys got to register to vote. I want you to vote. Darn it. We need every single vote. You know what happens? In Northern California, in the state of Jefferson, there's so few of us up here. Do you know that? There's all this vacant land up here. There's just a person here, a person there, a person here, a person there. We all got to vote. Because our vote, we get outvoted in just one city down there in Southern California. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how many votes there are. There's about 70-some thousand people. That includes the little guys over in Yuba County. I don't know whether they count all the tweakers or not because they can't find them. But then in Sutter County, I think they got 80 or 90,000. I think Nate Black was saying, but we all got to get together and vote. And we need to reject this tax thing. And we need to vote yes on 6 and no on K. That's going to put some money in your pocket, and it's going to keep other money from leaving your pocket. You ever had holes in your pocket? I got a couple pairs of pants I got holes in, and the stuff just falls right out of the bottom when I put it in there. That's how it's going to be when you vote on K, if you vote for K. So no on K, yes on 6. And if you want to get Dianne Feinstein out of there, we need to vote for Kevin De Leon. You know, Kevin De Leon is a nutcase. His name is Kevin Leon, but he wanted to be a kind of sound romantic. So he went down there, do you want to change your name? I'm going to change my name to Lou de Benninger. Yeah, just give it a little, Spanish flair to de Benninger. Be all right over there? You got your wheeling and dealing over there? Okay, he's all stoked up over here. Gonna have to hose him down get out here and dip him in the fish tank around the corner here, cool him off. He's all fired up over here tonight. Well, we're out here Friday night. We're recording the Saturday show because we couldn't be here, but next couple weeks, Wikiman said he's sure he's gonna have a live show. We're gonna do a live 3 weeks in a row. I'm headed over to Vietnam pretty soon, so we gotta sort that out. Maybe we can find a pinch hitter that'll take the show for us. So, okay. Oh, by the way, the gas tax initiative, did you get the thing in the mail? And what happened is Xavier Becerra, the Attorney General, fraudulently monkeyed with the gas tax repeal, and he says he doesn't talk about we're repealing a tax. So when you look at it on your ballot, it's going to say something about we're going to take away road funds. Just ignore that baloney. It is going to take away some road funds. But what it is a gas tax repeal. So how the folks promoting Prop 6, they sent out an election ballot correction. And it says Proposition 6, gas tax repeal initiative. That's what it should say. But Becerra is such a devious dude. He's like a Hispanic Obama. He's a liar his daddy was a liar. That's the devil, and he's a liar. Xavier Becerra. Oh, by the way, now Becerra wants to look at the grand jury report. Did you hear that? Yeah, I wonder what he wants to look at it for. So, anyway, we'll be right back. We got 30 minutes to go, and, hang with us if you want to.
Did you know that California was never supposed to be just one state? Before the state was formed in 1850, there was discussion of forming 3 states instead of 1. California has an area larger than 7 East Coast states combined, and it takes 14 hours to drive from one end of the state to the other. California is simply too large to govern. Rural communities are being outvoted by more densely populated areas. The state of Jefferson is the solution. Please visit SOJ51.net to show your support.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
All right. Well, we're working our way towards our landing here at noon, and some nice guys that like to talk sports. They know a lot about sports and do a nice job. They're a great bunch of guys that come in here, and so if you like sports, you want to kind of get the update on what's shaking this weekend and what's happened last weekend. The NBA is just starting, and the NBA teams, basketball teams, are just getting in their first couple of games. So they may cover some of those as well as football. So I want to talk in our few minutes pushing up to noon about President Trump. And regardless of what maybe you just hate the fact that he's conservative. Actually, he's not that conservative, really. I mean, they thought he was like sort of a quasi-conservative when he got elected. They were kind of concerned about that, right? But look at what's happened. I'm interested. I'm not so much stuck on philosophies. I got one, but I'm interested in people going to work, right? I like to see that the cities and the counties and the state and federal government actually work well, are efficient. People actually get a decent pay to work for the government, and they work really hard because I work hard. And so I don't like to give up my money to people that are just slackers. For instance, when I hire somebody, if I'm running a business and he doesn't work well, I fire him, just like Trump would. And I think that's appropriate. People need to learn how to work hard. And recently, a friend of mine who worked for Yuba County said that a nurse over there quit because he just said, I can't work for the county. He said, people don't work hard over here. I just don't want to work around people that are just lazy. So I'm not saying everybody's lazy, but the problem with government is you can't root out the lazy ones and inefficiencies. They just stay on because they've been on. And in the private sector, you cannot afford to keep people on that aren't carrying their way to making a profit. You just can't do it. So I am thrilled. I mentioned, I think last Saturday, that Trump has trimmed, or actually through a variety of means, the federal government employee population has shrunk by 16,000 employees. I want you to think about that. That's bigger than the entire population of Marysville. I don't know about Oroville, but it is Marysville. And maybe even, I'm not Lincoln. Lincoln's growing crazy down there. But let me get on to Trump. These are some of the amazing things. Trump's decisions have, some of them, I got friends that love Trump, and I got some friends that hate Trump. Just hate him. And I think they got a demon or something. Anyway, Trump the decisions they have made as a cabinet and as a leadership has given us more freedom. When you have 16,000 less government employees at the federal level, you have more freedom because ultimately they're going to spend those taxes better elsewhere. And ultimately, in the first 24 months, it's now 21 months actually, of Trump's presidency, we had a tax cut. Are we with me? And all kinds of businesses they're now building factories. I didn't get a bonus because I'm not employed anywhere. I'm self-employed. I'm talking for food out here. So, but a lot of people that are working for these corporations picked up $1,000 and $2,000 bonuses on top of getting a tax cut. So remember when Trump went in, he said, I'm going to cut regulation. And if we add a regulation, I'm going to remove a couple regulations for every one we have to add, if we feel we have to add one. So regulations aren't real sexy, aren't real attractive. Tax cuts are. People can see the difference in their check. They got more money to bring home to mama, right? Or to dad, or to the kids, and you're able to take care of your business. But one of the things that's very difficult, and I've run a number of businesses and worked in business, worked in churches, and built buildings, a lot of buildings, and, remodeled stuff, and is red tape, red tape, red tape, red tape. Oh, just like in Yuba County now, you can't even go, our cheerleaders and our future farmers can't even do a weekend car wash anymore to raise money to go to Washington or go somewhere or going on a field trip because some kind of water nut said that it's going to be too polluting. Even though we could take the same cars and park them in front of our house and wash them, we can't wash them all together in one spot. It's just stupid stuff that just pisses you off. So anyway, Trump is about reducing red tape. In fact, today, I don't know whether I have time, but you can look it up. They came and they did a press conference about cutting the red tape to move water to farmers in the Valley of California, Central Valley. Thank God for it. Trump is finally going to step in where these idiots in California have been confusing everything. So anyway, in 21 months, regulatory reform has saved the American families and business owners $33 billion. Now that's the cost of paying for fees as well as the management costs of complying and filling out all this crazy paperwork. I used to hate to fill out paperwork when we were raising pomegranates out there at Glad Tidings. Paperwork. Every time I sprayed any weed killer. I had to fill out paperwork, and then they wanted to know how many pounds of pomegranates we raised. I thought, I'm not going to even tell you that. You guys don't. Go get a real job. Anyway, let me compare this. This is really great stuff, people. If you don't stay up with what's going on, you just think, oh, it's just another president. In Obama's first 21 months in office, he imposed $245 billion in new regulatory costs in the first 21 months. Trump reduced that by $33 billion, right? Do we have a long ways to go yet? We do, man. Obama was Mr. Regulations. So he said he was going to cut 2 regulations for every one they added. But here's what really happened. The Trump administration added 176 deregulatory actions last year. In other words, they eliminated 12 regulations for every one. In other words, they unwound. Deregulatory means they undid regulations. 176 of them, 12 per one instead of 2 per one. Usually don't presidents make promises they don't keep, right? Particularly Republican presidents. Do you even remember any accomplishments of the latest George Bush, besides him being involved in the 9/11 situation? And his dad was so screwed up, they kicked him out after one term. Isn't that sad? Remember he said, read my lips, no new taxes, and he raised taxes? That was it. That's his legacy. The president the other day met with American workers from a number of industries to hear firsthand how these policies have affected them. Here's a few examples. Deregulations we're talking about. The Department of Labor made it simpler for small businesses to provide better health insurance to their employees through association health plans. Number 2, the Department of Veterans Affairs, hallelujah, greatly expanded veterans' ability to use telehealth services, giving them access to state-of-the-art care everywhere. In other words, he not only did telehealth, but now they can go wherever they want if they don't have a veterans hospital within, I think, 30 or 40 miles or something. And if they have problems getting in, they can just go to a doctor anywhere and the government will pick up the tab. Isn't that great? And then, this is another amazing thing. These things just slip by you if you're not paying attention. Areas off the coast of New England have been opened up to commercial sea scallop harvesting for the first time in years. This is an economic benefit of $654 million for American fishermen. I'm telling you, people, that means guys and gals are out there fishing and making a living and selling scallops. I just think it's awesome. It's just totally awesome. And the other thing, I was watching on YouTube and watching a cabinet meeting that the news people were invited to sit in on. And Trump last year was telling his cabinet members that last year they didn't cut any of the budget. In fact, the budget expanded, I think, because the military was in such terrible shape. They had to refurbish and resupply the military. But this year, this coming budget, he asked each member of the cabinet to streamline their agency's budget by at least, not just 5%, but at least 5%, and he actually challenged some of them, although he didn't mention particulars, to decrease their budget by 10%. Listen, we still have this huge budget deficit. We need help. So check this out. This is so encouraging to me because a lot of people are going to work and making good money. And I feel, people are, it just makes everything cool because restaurants fill up. People are buying houses. A friend of mine that goes to church with me, he sells cars for John L. Sullivan. He's selling cars left and right. Larry Givicki Ford, who supports trauma intervention program, they're selling cars. It's just great because people can go buy what they want and they have money to spend. So, the latest job report, job openings hit a new, every month it's new all-time high, 7.136 million, job openings for the month of August, revealing a strong active labor market. And, we're short workers. We're short like almost 1 million workers. There's more help wanted than we got people to take them right now in transition. So, anyway, Trump chimed in on Twitter. Incredible number just out. 7.36, million job openings. Astonishing, he says. It's all working. Stock market's up big on tremendous potential of USA. It's interesting. They predicted, the media, that if he were perchance a miracle of God gets the presidency, the stock market would crash. You remember that? The stock market would literally crash. And the stock market now, they can't even keep track of it. And then as soon as it dips, like in a correction of 800 points, it's like, oh, doom and gloom. It's still so far above what it was under Obama. But it's like they can't find anything good to say about the guy. So he says in this tweet, astonishing. It's all working. The stock market is up on tremendous potential of USA. Also, strong profits. We are number one in the world by far. I was listening to a guy on the way over here. I listened to talk radio. And the guy was mentioning about tariffs, how he was nervous about the president's talk about tariffs. Well, the fact is, I don't know whether we added many tariffs. The left would make you feel that there were no tariffs. It was like they came up with that word when the Trump administration came into being, that they came up with this word tariff. And then we instituted all these tariffs to make it harder for people to do business with us. It's just the opposite of what they described. The tariffs, the tariff war, they say you're going to start a tariff war, President Trump. Actually, we'd already been in a tariff war, but we conceded. Obama conceded, Bush conceded, and we were letting people bring their cars in here and only charge them 2% on the cost of the car to bring them in here to sell. And yet the tariffs over in China were like 25% and above. How does that work? So now, Trump says, listen, we're gonna raise tariffs on all you guys. That doesn't mean they have to raise them. We could just do free trade, right? So they don't charge tariffs. We don't charge tariffs, right? And just the best man or best woman wins. But, so everybody's renegotiating, right? Everybody said, oh, we hate Trump. He's dishonest. He's this, he's that. No, he's actually very honest, and he's looking out for the American public. The interesting figure I find fascinating, he said, we have contributed $500 billion annually to China. He said we've helped rebuild China. And he says, they don't need our money. They can do fine without our money. Why would we contribute and give them favor with $500 billion? Just give them a check. So, now Trump, today, in fact, has jumped into what they call the water wars in California, Washington, and all down the coast. And, so the thing that I always remember is, we used to do work on a construction project in Tijuana, the Otay Mesa section of Tijuana. So we would drive I-5 some. We used to drive 99 and we'd change it up and drive I-5. And so I used to like I-5 because it had all those big farms and fantastic irrigation systems and just big old, amazing looking farms. And, but then just one judge, because the EPA would say, environmental protection people and all those folks, water resources people, would convince these Sierra Club and all these left-wing clubs that are funded actually by the Russians, they would convince them to sue the government, and then the agency of the government would easily settle with them. In other words, the agency under Obama and Bush, they're all left-wingers. They were on the side of the nonprofits, the non-government organization, and they would say, you sue us and we'll agree to your suit and give you money to fund your operation, and then we'll do what you want. So one of the things they wanted was to detour all the water going to thousands and thousands of acres of these corporate ranches, farms, that had beautiful almond trees, walnut trees, grapes, olives, all kinds of wonderful crops along I-5 and in Central California. And they withdrew all the water contracts for all those farmers. And so the farmers had no choice because they couldn't draw out of the ground the water to do it. I think it's down there, the water table's low and it's salty. So they needed surface water brought to them. And so the judge, one judge, and not a scientist, just a judge, says it's okay to stop giving them any water. It put billions of dollars of ranches out of business. Entire small towns that were serving those ranches and had apartments and houses and stuff, and all the, I get a kick out of the Democrats are always say they're for the worker, the minority. A lot of people were minority workers working in the farming business, tractor drivers, running. All these people they had management jobs making $80,000, $100,000 a year, running these big farms. Hispanics have a good job, sending their kids to college. They just put all those people out of business. Entire towns, small towns, shut down on that eastern Central Valley or the western Central Valley area along I-5, and they just shoved out all those trees. And it just is crazy environmental, what I call pseudoscience or junk science or faux science that is destroying the wonderful state of California, where we have abundant water. They just dictate that most of it's got to go into the ocean. And so Trump came into town, and they had a news conference with House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Congressman Denham, McClintock, Nunes, and Valadao, I think. Anyway, there's a number of assemblymen down in that area, and also up in Washington State, Kathy McMorris Rogers. They had the same problem at the Columbia River and the Snake River, where the environmentalists and the Indian tribes or the indigenous people are wanting to remove all the dams. And so that eliminates farming because actually, the interesting thing is, if you eliminated all the dams right here where we are in Yuba County, the Feather and the Yuba River would almost completely dry up in the summer. There would be no water. In the winter, there'd be like water running everywhere, and you'd have flood stage. But in the summer, you could walk across the river with a pair of tennis shoes on. It would be less than knee deep because they're just not going. Once the runoff happens, unless you have it dammed up, you're not going to have hardly any water. It's crazy. This environmental thing will destroy and is destroying and prohibiting us from making a great living here in the state of California. They're stopping oil drilling. Here's the other crazy thing. The reason the gas tax is so high, one of the most efficient ways to move oil is by pipelines. So the environmentalists say, well, what if the pipe breaks? It's kind of what if anything. Like, well, we don't want to drive across town and get a burger because what if we have a heart attack and we're in the car? We're going to run off the road, right? So we just stay in our house. So if you have a heart attack, it's just crazy talk. So we can't pipe oil in. They won't let us draw it out of the ground here and just use it right here and refine it here. So they have to bring a boat from somewhere else into the California shore and pump it on land. Or they got to truck it in or train it in. And then they complain about the train's going to run off the tracks. I mean, it's just crazy. And they create these extra costs to produce oil. Well, we're going to shut her down here. Listen, if you run into somebody this week that seems pretty unique, you might be hanging out with an angel, so make sure to treat them good. And we'll be back next week. We're going to be live next week. All right. See you later.